Hey guys, it's Sasha. Yesterday, Facebook, aka Meta, published their quarterly results, and I have never seen a company commit suicide quite so spectacularly. Facebook has pressed the self-destruct button, and it appears that they have gone all out past the point of no return. If you are a Meta shareholder, I am so sorry. This video is going to be extremely painful. If you are not a Meta shareholder, grab some popcorn because this is so bad. You really have to see this. So last night, Facebook published their Q3 results. Their revenue has dropped 4.5% year on year, and their profits fell by 52%. The share price has fallen 23% so far in pre-market trading after already falling over 5% yesterday. Pretty spectacular. What's even more spectacular is that the collapse in profits for Facebook is entirely self-inflicted. Facebook is punching itself in the face, and last quarter there was blood gushing out of the nose, there was some blurry vision going on, but this quarter Facebook has punched itself in the face even harder, and we're starting to look at something that looks a bit more like a hemorrhage. I am going to show you how bad this is. Make sure you keep on watching because it actually gets worse later on in the video. If you look at Facebook's profit and loss statement, you will notice that the biggest cost is research and development. Facebook managed to spend $9.2 billion on R&D in just the last quarter alone. These are ridiculous, mind-boggling numbers. And you might just wonder, what does a social media platform that doesn't manufacture things and stuff like that spend $9.2 billion in 3 months on that comes under research and development? And if you scroll down to the bottom of the earnings release, you will see that Reality Labs, Facebook's Metaverse experiment, has lost a staggering $3.7 billion just in the last quarter. And if you add in the $285 million that they made in revenue within Reality Labs, Facebook has burnt around $4 billion on the Metaverse project in the last 3 months alone. The world's third most famous alien, Mark Zuckerberg, has decided that the world wants to live inside a Metaverse and gambled his entire company on this bet. And I know what you're thinking. Who are the top two most famous aliens? Well, it's obviously E.T. and Predator. Now, you can see that the first 9 months of the year so far, Facebook has managed to waste $10 billion on this project. And the result is a metaverse with graphics that are slightly worse than the Nintendo Wii, which came out in 2006, and avatars that don't have legs. Facebook is betting that in the future, most of us will be wearing giant headsets for everyday things most of the day, like going to work and talking to our friends. Makes absolute perfect sense. Why would you think otherwise? The slight problem with this notion is that it does not actually solve any real problems or address or improve any existing experiences. I can tell you without the need to spend $10 or $20 billion that there will not be a shift from people working with computers, people working with other people, to people operating inside a virtual reality with virtual computers in a Facebook metaverse using a giant headset with weird handheld controls instead. In fact, a regular video call where you can go and see the other person on the screen is actually a much better way of interacting with another person than two legless avatars talking to each other in the fucking metaverse. Anyway, it actually gets a whole lot worse financially, believe it or not, because Facebook has gone all in to destroy their business. Because if you look at Facebook's balance sheet, two things stand out. The property and equipment line is blowing up. It is now at $73.7 billion, of $16 billion in the last year. This is an absurdly high number. It is about twice what Apple has on that line, and Apple has recently moved into their new flagship spaceship-style office. And remember that the money being invested into property and equipment doesn't appear on the profit and loss statement, which is very convenient for Facebook because just last quarter, that line sat on $67.6 billion. So in just one quarter, Facebook managed to pump $6.2 billion net into property and equipment. And if this money was in the profit and loss statement, Facebook would be massively in the red. And you might naturally be wondering, where the fuck is Facebook getting all of this money? Because until recently, they were just content on spending all of their profits. But now Facebook is spending way more than the company actually makes if you take into account things that are on the balance sheet and in the cash flow, but not in the profit and loss statement. And by the way, Facebook's revenues are declining at the same time, which isn't helping their cause. I guess there's only so many ads that you can show to the average 60-year-old Facebook user. Now, if you thought that spending $6.2 billion net was bad, it's actually much worse. In the cash flow statement, you can see that Facebook actually spent $9.4 billion on property and equipment in the last quarter. Now, $2.2 billion was written down in depreciation and amortization across the board for the company, but you can see that the depreciation line is almost the same as it was 12 months ago. So the assets that Facebook is piling onto that property and equipment line are being placed on very long depreciation and amortization schedules, which is incredibly handy because the company is spending the cash. The money is leaving the bank account on all this stuff, almost $10 billion in 3 months, but that spend is not reflected in the P&L, which makes it look considerably better. But where is this money coming from? Well, the answer is right here on the same cash flow statement, just a bit lower down. In the last quarter, Facebook collected $10 billion of long-term debt. Who would have thought? $10 billion spent on all this stuff, and they went and borrowed $10 billion because up until this quarter, Facebook had no long-term debt at all. And of course, at a time when interest rates are exploding, inflation is through the roof, and your business is tanking, taking on masses of long-term debt for no good reason whatsoever is by far the most sensible business strategy. Facebook provided some guidance for Q4. Just in case you thought it was bad, they wanted to be worse. They expect revenues to be just over $30 billion. Q4 revenues are always highest because advertisers spend all their money around Black Friday and Christmas. But in Q4 last year, Facebook made $33.7 billion in revenue. So Facebook is expecting the revenue to continue to decline year on year and the decline to get worse and worse every quarter. And then Facebook expects the total cost for 2022 to come in at $85 to $87 billion. Given that expenses in the first 3 quarters were $61.9 billion, that means Facebook is expecting Q4 cost to come in at a record $23 to $25 billion. And the problem with this is that when revenues do fall in Q1, because they always fall in Q1 because Q1 revenues are always much lower in Q4, the costs will probably continue going up according to Facebook. In Q1 2022, Facebook made $27.9 billion in revenue. So if costs continue on their growth trajectory, profits next year might get awfully close to zero. A very spectacular fall from grace. And here is what Facebook has to say about the money that they are plowing into the metaverse. We do anticipate that Reality Labs' operating losses in 2023 will grow significantly year over year. Beyond 2023, we expect to pace Reality Labs' investments such that we can achieve our goal of growing overall company operating income in the long run. So if you thought the ridiculous, off-the-head kind of burn rate this year was bad, you just wait until Facebook spends significantly more on this stuff next year. Not a bit more, not a fair bit more. The official position is they will spend a fuckload more. The rough summary of Facebook's strategy at the moment is to spend every dollar possible on the metaverse. The company is happy to ignore the core Facebook business and focus all of its attention on the biggest waste of money in corporate history. Don't get me wrong, innovation is great. Trying out new things can sometimes lead to new business opportunities, can grow companies, but this is a whole new level of stupid. Mark Zuckerberg is a good tech engineer and built the right platform at the right time, which made him exceptionally rich. The problem is that being a good tech engineer at the right time in the right place is not a synonym of being a visionary. But money and success can do very funny things to people, and we're witnessing a classic case of the CEO dragging the company down the toilet in a vain attempt at satisfying their ego. All the while, data is not on Facebook's side. Sales of their virtual reality headsets are falling. Reality Labs' revenue is down 50% year on year. It's already tiny, but it's getting even tinier. There is no data for a mass need or any interest in the metaverse. But Mark Zuckerberg and Facebook are too proud to turn the ship around. You can't possibly go and tell investors that you made a bad bet and wasted a colossal amount of money and time. So the obvious answer is to double down on the bad debt and throw even more good money after bad. All the while, Facebook is doing stock buybacks using money they don't have. In the last quarter, they spent $6.3 billion on stock buybacks. In the same quarter, they had to borrow $10 billion to fund investment in the metaverse. And while Facebook is buying back shares so that the average idiot on Wall Street thinks it's a good stock because they're doing buybacks, in the exact same quarter, they spent $3.1 billion on stock-based compensation, which is the exact opposite in terms of effect. $2.5 billion of that was spent on research and development. So I hate to shit all over this parade, but I know some investors think that Facebook is trying their hardest. They're investing all of this money into amazing new systems, technology, blah, 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 is the future, bro. But no. 27% of the entire $9.2 billion R&D budget was spent on giving out stock options to grossly overpaid engineers and execs. And the reason they're grossly overpaid is because what we've seen as a return on the investment is absolute shit. But Facebook doesn't give a shit about you, the investor. It's all about massaging the ego of the boss who has decided that he is ahead of his time, because nothing says visionary better than a replica of the game Second Life that was released 20 years ago, where you could create an avatar of yourself and go around a virtual reality world interacting with other users. But of course, you cannot compare those two at all, because Second Life didn't spend tens of billions of dollars on their project. If you found this video useful, please don't forget to smash the like button for the YouTube algorithm. Thank you so much for watching, I really appreciate it, and as always, I'll see you guys later.